Hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, which is Ask Alvin, which is a new format for us. I'm joined by Alvin Tegemulia, who is co-founder and Chief Technology Officer of NetDocuments. Hi Alvin.
Hello, Caroline. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm excited about this event.
Thank you so much for joining me. We've got a really lovely number of people coming to join us today, actually, and I might just wait for people to come and join us before sort of launching in to introduce you fully. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping, and then we've got some great questions which people have been submitting in advance of the webinar, which is really nice. And as I say, we haven't done this before, and it's quite good fun. So welcome, as you come in and join us, welcome. Alvin doesn't need too much introduction. You founded NetDocuments in 1999. You've won many accolades in your career, including becoming a Fast Case 50 winner in 2021. Most recently, and I was there for this award, receiving ILTA's coveted Lifetime Achievement Award for a business partner. When we had our glitzy backgrounds, which I had carried on having the next day into my next meetings. We're going to be discussing the future direction and the evolution of content management as the DMS transitions to become a document lifecycle management system and a single source of truth. And Alvin will be discussing the risks associated with multiple silos and how best to protect your data, including some of the pitfalls to avoid. And as I say, we'll be dealing with them, we'll be running through your questions that you've sent in advance. But thank you so much for saying, if you're listening to this live, who you are and where you're listening from. It's always great to have that interaction and see who you are and who's listening in. Although we've got the questions in advance, we'd very much encourage you to interact in the chat. So if you've got the question yourself, we'll be monitoring the chat. And if you want to respond to one of the questions that has been sent to us in advance, then by all means, post your own comments or questions in the chat. Alvin's very happy with that. Some of the questions I've got are sort of anonymous, but a few of you have said that I can name you, so thank you for that. I'm not going to run through all the names of everyone listening in, but welcome. It's really good to see you here. Before we launch into the questions, I think this was sparked by, I think Alvin actually corrected me, fair enough, because I've been talking a lot about platformisation. And in a conversation with Alvin, he said, well, Caroline, actually, what you're talking about is aggregation. And I know that this is a sort of a passion point for you, and that you think that really what's happening is aggregation and that platformisation is the next phase. So I thought what would be really helpful, as we're joined by more people, and thank you for continuing to say hi everyone. Talk to me about, let's preface it with your thoughts on platformisation, Alvin.
Yes, so Caroline, I think I have, if I look back, 40 years in the legal industry, I've really had three technology passions. The first was about 35 years ago when, documents were scattered all over the place, but primarily in the word processing center and different machines. Then we thought, hey, we need to have a single content management, a document management system that can aggregate all of that. So that was really a passion, and I was very happy, to see it fulfilled, with back then with the technology that we called, soft solutions. The second passion that I had throughout my career is cloudification. This was about 22 years ago when we thought, wow, a cloud can give all sorts of benefits. One of which, that is my favorite benefit, is the concept of inheritance. That every new innovation, every new enhancements in hardware or software or certification can be inherited across all users, across all customers, across all geographies instantaneously. That created a huge efficiency, and the potential of creating a very high stability. We now, I'm looking at that the legal market is really going cloud. with multiple vendors offering true SaaS solutions. I'm thinking, wow, what is the next step? And I believe that the really next step is platformization. And I will define platformization a little bit here, but the concept is that with platformization, you can take inheritance to the next level, which is inheritance across all solutions that rely on the platform. Inheritance not just across all customers, but inheritance across all solutions, across all platforms. And that is an amazing nirvana, that we need to achieve. We are not there yet in the legal market. So in order to understand what platformization is, we must define, what the core technologies are, that make up the platform, accessible via APIs, and the solutions or the applications. So there are kind of, these two distinct sides of the technology. So the platform must include core technologies, which for the legal market, for unstructured data, it means the storage technology, the search engine, the analytics, the AI that can work across all of the digital files, the logging, snapshot recovery, localization and internationalizations, the data center controls, and all of those best practices to make your application run smoothly and scalable and always be up. All of the technologies related to encryption, all of the technologies related to the end user security, including authentication, ethical walls, data loss prevention, which right now is a big topic. And then it's just new that is coming up into the legal market is the digital rights management, what happens with the documents goes outside of your domain. And then all of the compliance are also associated with the platform, the certifications with ISO, with SOC 2, with especially, FIPS 140-2 level 3 for security, FedRAMP compliance. All of that defines the platform. The platform provides core technology across all solutions. Solutions that running on the platform must be native in the meaning that they should not be trying to hoard core technologies within the solutions themselves, but they should relinquish all of the core technologies down to the platform, and then the solutions should focus on the business logic and the user interface, that type of work. So solutions including the content management system itself, the capture of emails and discussion threads, the document automation process, the task management, all of the solutions relating to margin notes and entity identification and collaboration and sharing, and building document sets so that they can be under single PDF files, e-signature, contract management, enterprise search, table of authorities creations, table of contents, redlining, citations, validation, clause management, all of those type of things, including the automation of the ethical walls, such as with the workspace security management or the wall builder. All of those are solutions that are based upon the platform, and we call all of the solutions providers to make sure that you are conscientious about platformization, so that all of the core technologies is accessible via well-defined APIs, and then the applications focuses on what they're good for and let the platform do all of its magic in terms of creating stability, uniformity, across all of the different solutions. So even vendors with a single app, they must start thinking about defining what is platform and what is the solution, and then create that delineation. Vendors with multiple apps have a critical need, to have a platform, because then you want to have a common authentication, a common search, a common DLP, a common encryption across all of that. So we're calling the industry here, for all vendors to be conscientious about platformization for the benefit of every customer. And then we're also calling the industry for all partners of the technology firms, that implement, that train, to be conscientious, about the importance and the benefit that uniformity and that stability can give across all of the solutions that they provide. So so we emphasize again, cloudification makes inheritance possible across all customers. Platformization makes inheritance possible across all solutions and all customers. So it is the next step. This is why it's my kind of third technology passion in my career. And then just one more important thing, platform does not need to mean that all of the core technology must reside in itself. Platforms can rely on other platforms. So obviously, the Microsoft M365 is a phenomenal platform that the legal industry is embracing, and it should. The Microsoft is talking a lot, right now about, their security, systems, with the Microsoft Information Protection (MIP). That is a security platform, for DRM. Also, the Microsoft Cloud Storage Provider services at Azure and AWS. So platforms must coexist among themselves. Now, this is the important thing about platformization here. All of the applications of the vendor running on their native platform must access all of these other platforms, such as M365, through their own platform, not directly from the application to these other type of platforms. So the normalization of technology, for all of the different platforms that exist out there must be done through your platform. That really creates a huge leverage and end user benefit. So so this is my third passion.
Yeah. You have lots of passions in tech, we know. I've encouraged, so for those of you who weren't here quite at the beginning when I was encouraging questions, so we've got lots of questions, and I am conscious of time, but do jump in. The idea is that we've got lots of questions in advance, but if you've got a question about platformization, please do jump in and ask Alvin. So I think I think I'm just going to ask the questions, the spontaneous questions as they come in, and then we'll go to the questions that we've already been asked. We make it up as we go along, Alvin. so thank you. Eric Vasquez Mosquera says, so how to determine what is application and what is platform, Alvin?
What determines? Yeah, so common technologies, common core technologies, that has to normalize across all solutions must be in the platform. And I've just given some examples, such as search, such as analytics, such as security. That has to be used across all of the different solutions, that run on the platform. And then the solutions, are what will solve a specific need for the end user. I believe document management is a solution. I believe that document automation is a solution. Even technologies that are considered tools, table of contents builder, or table of authorities builder, or redlining, those are also solutions that must be integrated with the platform.
Okay. And Dennis Kennedy, hi Dennis, nice to see you here. What are your thoughts? I mean, we have actually got a question on blockchain that's come in, but so what are your thoughts on distributed ledger, blockchain coming into the legal tech platform space, authentication, chain of custody, etc.? Yeah,
that is, I believe, one of the very promising core technologies, that should reside in the platform. We have been participating in the blockchain legal coalition probably for about 5 years. Some of the activities have decreased in the last couple of years, but we have created proof of concept so that the authority of what a document is and how it was really finalized is diverted from the the vendor, and it's also diverted from the law firm itself or from the corporate legal department, but it is placed in a distributed ledger, in the blockchain technology. So I believe that it's going to take a few years, but there will be a lot of applications that will be based upon blockchain for confirmation that this is the real document. I think that that's coming.
Okay. Andy Beach, nice to see you, Andy. We've got another question from Andy coming up, but so who decides which technologies solutions should be part of the shared platforms? Do you see vendors that don't subscribe to the vision failing?
So the question is, what's going to happen with vendors that don't adopt a platform? For me, is the same question as what happens to vendors that don't adopt the cloud. It's the concept that the efficiencies of the vendors will be so much greater if they work on a cloud and if they have a platform, that it will automatically move forward against the vendors who do not have a platform. Because if you have to have a search solution for your content management that is different than from your collaboration system, then you have to deal with two separate issues here, two separate technologies that are very complex, to maintain and to secure and to stabilize. If you have different encryption technologies, or even if your application A has encryption, application B does not, and it says why not platformize that and then make every application that runs on the platform automatically come up with content that is encrypted? So the efficiencies that you gain from platformization is huge. The end user benefit is huge because the stability, the security, the uniformity across all of them will be automatically there. So yes, on the long run, vendors that have platforms, vendors that run in the cloud will automatically move ahead, and then the clients will see that, the end users will see which one can move ahead faster.
So I'm going to jump to, so Andy also, so Andy is IT director at Farrow & Co, for those of you who don't know. And Andy sent a question in advance, so thank you for that. I'm just going to jump straight to that. So, because I found it really, this is one I found particularly interesting. So he said, and this is such a challenge for the legal sector. So there can be pressure to acquire best of breed solutions, which may not fall within the same platform as other systems we use. Is it better to abandon platformization aspirations in favor of acquiring a gold standard system, or stick to our strategic guns and suffer the consequences?
As I mentioned before, the legal industry have not achieved a platformization standard that we are all happy with. And by the way, I'm not really talking about platformization from a perspective of net documents. Of course, net documents has to be platformized, and then we've been working very diligently to do that. But it's the concept of the whole industry. Let's move, towards this technology, a concept that is very, very important. So new technologies will always come in, or new solutions will always come in that will not yet have a platform, or that that will have all of its technologies run within this solution. That is the same issue whether you embrace platformization or not. That will, if you just have an aggregation of solutions and a new solution come from a different vendor, then you have to say, oh, do I have the courage to adopt that new solution and abandon the aggregations from the vendor, or do I wait? So that question will always exist. However, I can definitely say that the ones that have platforms can embrace that new solution and then make it part of the platform in a faster way than those that do not. Because if you do not have a platform, then that solution will be isolated. Also it will be aggregated into the content of the vendors, but it will not be platformized. It may be integrated. So this is another concept. Integration for me is a good thing, but platformization is much better. Integration, it means that you still continue having two different platforms integrated via the user interface, as opposed to a normalization of the core technologies. Normalization of the core technologies is what platformization is.
So if you, forgive me if this is a stupid question, but so if you were to have, so you've got, I mean, we're at the stage where there's plenty of examples of exactly what Andy was talking about. But if you had a change of mindset, perhaps between vendors, where you take the open API approach and you start to, there's a lot more putting the customer first and their needs first, rather than, sort of a, territory grabbing. But even if they would sort of move down that route and start integrating, that wouldn't be achieving what you're hoping it to achieve in terms of real platformization.
Well, I'm just hoping that every new solution that comes is conscientious of the concept of platformization. You do not have to necessarily embrace platform A or platform B, but they themselves is platformized, so that all of the subsequent solutions will be integrated into a single platform. And then we think about not just integrating solutions, but normalizing platforms. Again, there is no reason that a particular platform can rely upon other platforms. There is no reason. I'm just specifically saying that it is a benefit. It's a great benefit to the vendor who provides any type of a solution to start thinking platformization from the beginning, and then normalizing across all of the other leading platforms that is out there. It is foolish for somebody, to not think about, oh, in the legal industry, there's 3 or 4 platforms that are just fantastic, and let us call all these other platforms for things that already exist. If a search technology, if an encryption technology, if a storage technology, if a DLP technology already exists, and it is very strong and it's stable and it's scalable, why invent that? Why not just call this other platform and making it available to the new solutions that you provide? So that's my hope, that we in the legal market can go there.
So there's a question about Microsoft. We've got quite a couple of those, as you won't be surprised to hear. But so Dennis Kennedy, so Dennis, thanks. I'm intrigued by what will become part of the core platform OS operating system, and how you mentioned document automation in that context. What is your vision of the role of document automation as an integrated core element of the legal tech platform? The combination of document automation and APIs seems to be promising over time.
I absolutely believe that document automation, is going to be just an integral part of the day-to-day needs at the day usage of every single legal user. The concept where you can look at the whole entire spectrum of core technologies across your platform and other platforms, then that can be automated, within it can be automated in an easy way. It's just amazing. I think the Microsoft Power Automate is an exciting technology for that integrates multiple platforms. And then this is why, in our case, the example of NetDocuments, that we acquire After Pattern. After Pattern, is the new acquisitions that we just announced, recently, and that will be for us the core technology for document automation. Document automation must exist, within a law firm solution, and document automation that does not access the same core platform and the content management, will no question suffer, because then it's question of integration as opposed to platformization. So yes. Yeah, document automation is critical.
I'm going to quickly come on to because we've got a question about Afterpattern. So where is it? Oh, can't find it. Yeah, so Karen from a law firm in the United States said, I would like to know more about Afterpattern. So you bought Afterpattern, which is a no-code automation toolkit, as you said, in November 21. She said, I'd like to know more about Afterpattern and how that's going to be folded into net documents. So I don't know if you want to comment on that now while we're talking about Afterpattern, and then I'll come back to that. Joshua Sharp, thank you so much for your question. Everyone keep your questions coming, it's fun. But tell me about the plans for Afterpattern as well.
Sure, and of course, I should emphasize that we're talking right now specifically about net documents.
Yeah, no, and we'll come on. We've got questions about
aspect of
course, and we've got questions about Microsoft, which I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, so we'll come back to the Microsoft point as well.
Yeah, so we're just within a few months of creating a first integration with net documents. Between Afterpattern and net documents, it's going to be the net documents automation service, and that basically allows that any event that happens within our platform can trigger another event, and then it creates a no-code application so that that logic can be established and the user can define the general parameters as to what should be the input and what should be the output is a workflow strategy. So we're embracing in this case two automation services. One is internally that will be superbly integrated with all of the core technologies in net documents. The other one, we're still very much bullish on the Microsoft Power Automate, former Microsoft Flow, that can now link net documents to all of the other solutions that is out there and a different platform. So you can contact us directly, and then start discuss some of that with our product managers and people who can demonstrate the software. But just I think within a few months, then you will see that net documents will release the Power Automate technologies within our platform.
Okay.
So again, this is an example of a platformization. We acquired that technology. We don't want to just release the way that it was originally written. Fantastic solution, but what if every file that it manages, that it creates, will automatically be encrypted, subject to the same search, subject to the same authentication, subject to the same analytics. So that is the vision, that every new technology that is implemented by a vendor, in this case us, will automatically inherit all the core technologies for internationalization, for compliance, for logging, snapshot recovery. That's the beauty of it.
Let's come on to the Microsoft point. So Jonas Smithley said, in response to a couple of points you've been making, so hearing this, then only Microsoft can offer this platform. So I think that there's inevitably been questions about, and law firms are very much more than I've seen in a long time. The pandemic has accelerated law firms doubling down on their Microsoft investment. And we had a question, I don't have permission to say who, but so, and she asked, why not just use SharePoint for content management? There's I'll come on to talk about perhaps slightly more relevantly the M365 platform, but could you just address that? It's a question that's coming up more. Right. We're revisiting it. It's not the first time, but obviously it's evolved, the technology's evolved, we're now in the cloud, and SharePoint Online makes a difference, and we're seeing more law firms view it as a credible and it is a platform, right? It's part of the Microsoft platform. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
So it is, and I think that it is very fair to classify SharePoint as a platform. I think it is a platform that is not just targeted to the legal industry, but to the whole world. It doesn't matter what industry you belong, Microsoft positions SharePoint as a development platform. And if you understand that that's the case, then you also understand that Microsoft SharePoint is not a solution. It is a platform, is a technology where you can build. You can build all sorts of solutions. Then so one of the usage was always saying, hey, let's use Microsoft SharePoint as a document management system, and then put in some a third-party technology to make it as a document management solution. So I'm going to divert a little bit from my talking point about platformization, because that is an example of platformization, is a document management that is using a SharePoint. The biggest challenge of using SharePoint as a core platform in the legal industry for content management is that for 10 to 15 years we've been trying to do that with various degree of success. So the latest iteration, the one to the prior iteration, was when Microsoft came to me, and this was about 6-7 years ago, and then it says, we have created, based on SharePoint, Matter Center, that is supposed to be document management system, and many law firms embrace, including some big law firms in UK, major law firms in United States. And then they came back to us and said, look, our solution takes it up to a certain point, but we would like you Net Documents to be the last mile, for our law firms. So there is the concept, is that the platform is so generic that it is not optimized for legal content management. For example, there is no automatic creation of a unique encryption key when a document is created. There is no concept of a dual custody for subpoena defense. Those are just examples. The search engine, based on Microsoft powerful, fast search engine, it has a certain scalability. We use fast as our complete search engine, but then when you start reaching a few 100 million documents, then it collapses. So all of those things that we have experienced ourselves, and seen Microsoft come to us throughout the years is one that I have to say, be careful about using it as a platform. I'm not saying that other Microsoft technologies are not fantastic, and they are absolutely fantastic. SharePoint itself is a platform, is not a solution. The solution must be built, but some of the platform itself must be optimized for unstructured data legal, and that is what we've found throughout the years that is not perfect.
There's so I think this is a different sort of spin. I mean, it touches on a similar. There's a slight repetition when it comes to SharePoint, but I'm going to ask the question anyway, because there are certain things that this is someone in the financial services world actually who sent us this question, and they said there's sort of interesting observations within this. So why should we use Net Documents as a platform rather than the Microsoft 365 platform? Our legal operations is currently using another DMS, and like many, we're also moving to the cloud, brackets Microsoft 365. As your topic describes, multiple silos can be a risk. Why should we not use M365 SharePoint to file our legal documents and choose another silo like MD? I appreciate that you've covered some of these points. Is there anything else from that question that I think that she does sort of draw out an interesting sort of slightly different angle though?
Yeah, I absolutely believe, that the legal industry right now is at a stage where M365 is a platform that we must all use, including us ourselves in Net Documents. So if we develop an application and we base it on the Net Documents platform, it will be automatically native to the M365 world. So, for example, when you are running on an iPhone or an iPad, and you do not have any of the Net Documents technologies, and you do a file open in Word or PowerPoint or Excel. Okay, because our platform also embraces their platform, you would automatically see the net documents files without having any applications whatsoever from net documents. So if you buy a brand new iPhone, load Word in there, and then do a file open, then you will automatically see net documents after you say, hey, you know, net documents is one of the recognized cloud storage provider services. So the integration must be, what I'm saying, invisible from platform to platform, as opposed to from an application to a platform. And many other type of other solutions that try to provide integration as opposed to platformization, you know, then they have to choose, oh, I need to go to a tab to my DM, you know, and then from there I can try to interact with M365. And what I'm saying is the concept of platformization, putting all of that directly into the platform as opposed to the solutions, will make so that the transparency is there, that it becomes invisible. Is not the, this is a very important point. The goal is to not make it easy to the user. The goal is to make it invisible to the user, so that the user does not know what platform he's working on. So for example, you know, our Microsoft information protection integration with net documents will make it invisible. So when a document is sent out of the net documents world and goes into the, you know, space of emails and etc., so that it will include the rights management. You know, the encryption and the decryption and the rights management is all done at the platform level. You know, this is why I'm saying, do not consider the fact that you adopt one platform that you are excluding another platform. That is not true. You know, platforms, you know, can be normalized across multiple vendors.
Is there any, so being playing devil's advocate a little bit, given Microsoft's, you know, reach, investment, is there any point in, and given that document management is a solution, is there, from the end user in mind, is there a need for legal tech vendors to drive towards their own platformization?
That is a good question. You know, I just want to make the observation that Microsoft has the world to, you know, as a customer. Okay, legal vendors have lawyers as customers. So the need to make things very specific to law firms is what differentiates the legal vendors from Microsoft that is trying to solve the world. Obviously, Microsoft will always have phenomenal technologies, and we must embrace it, because nobody can have the R&D, you know, investment that Microsoft has. But if you use, you know, I just give you the same examples as before. You know, if you want the documents to automatically be encrypted with a unique encryption key per document, Microsoft's not going to provide that. If you want the documents to have dual custody encryption, you know, so that subpoenas is not that much of an issue. Another example, we all talk about the danger, you know, of having your documents taken over by ransomware, and then making it impossible for you to read unless you pay a ransom. If the platform has a unique technology to say immutable rights, every time I write, I can never erase that file unless I purge it. So I cannot write over that file. If you open the document in the morning, and then you save it at 10 o'clock, and then you save it again at 11 o'clock, the 11 o'clock snapshot will be different than the 10 o'clock, because the 10 o'clock write will never be written again. It's an immutable write operation. So when you write, it cannot be changed unless you completely purge it. That totally destroys ransomware, because ransomware assumes that you can rewrite the file with some virus to encrypt it. Okay, so Microsoft does not provide that type of a service. But if your platform makes every right immutable, then you would automatically be free of ransomware across all of your solutions. So Microsoft is so phenomenal, but they're solving the world's problem. We are solving lawyers, law firms' problems, and these law firm problems have different types of needs, with the application world that we're working on, and that's why platforms in legal will always exist on top of the Microsoft world.
I think you've pretty much just answered this point, but so Dan Harmer says the speed of SharePoint/Azure updates, changes and rollouts are very aggressive and things often break in our live environment. If your product ND is dependent on someone else's platform, how can you provide or guarantee business continuity? I think you've sort of, I think you've answered the point about that you're not going to be necessarily dependent on their platform.
Yeah, different platforms operate at different speeds. I'm just going to answer this. There is no way that anybody will always say that we're going to maintain, always updated with across all of the other innovations that exist in the world. It takes some time, but the speed of assimilation of technology is increased many fold with platform than if you did not have one. Because then you have to solve it at every solution level. And here we're solving it only at the platform level, and then all solutions inherit it. So if you're concerned about speed of adopting new technologies that exist in other areas, boy, then you should run towards platformization. Yes, there might be some time when you have to live with integration, between the two solutions. But the speed of assimilation across all of the other solutions that the vendor provides is drastically maximized with platformization as compared to aggregation. Yeah, we never define aggregation. Aggregation is a concept that you buy multiple technologies without a single platform. So you're trying to facilitate, the procurement, which is very important. Maybe the management across multiple applications, maybe because they have a single panel for management, but you are not normalizing core technologies. So aggregation is one thing, platformization is another thing. And technology assimilation across all the solutions is drastically enhanced with platformization as opposed to aggregation.
I want to make sure that we've addressed at least most of the questions that we've sent in advance, just out of thanks, respect for everybody making the effort to send them. So I want to get to this one. It's not 100% related to what we were just saying, but so Sean Curran, head of legal tech at Travers Smith, says, if more modern technology comes to market that significantly improves the efficiency of a document production related process, is there a balance to be struck between additional overhead on managing the silo versus waiting for your bread and butter document production vendor to respond by adding the technology to their platform? And then he makes the observation, if the leading DMS vendors had driven forward innovation at such a rate that it closed the door for new entrants, we wouldn't be in a situation where silos exist. I think it's fair for DMS vendors to talk about the downsides of silos. Alvin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a lot of questions there. But so the concept of silos, it means that the danger is not so much that you have the risk of not being able to access, because a particular repository can be very open, because the API is such that it is completely compatible with the Microsoft standards, and then you can access it from anywhere. So silos is where you cannot have access, from a repository perspective, because it is closed. So I believe that a closed silo is not platformization, and I really believe that the rate of innovation within platformization will always be greater, than if you do not worry about this, if you just focuses on the application side. We we need to be open, and we need to have single source of truth. It's a dual concept: openness and a single source of truth.
Yeah. Vasquez, I'll come back because Sean's got other questions, but this brings me on to Vasquez, who's actually kind of just posed a question in the chat, actually. Sent a question in advance saying, Alvin, one platform and single source of truth, I get it, but will net documents cover the entire cycles? For example, e-signature, workflows, closing rooms within the platform, not linked with third-party solutions?
The content management vendors right now is evolving to become a document lifecycle management, where the ones that have the information, are the one that would have a great deal of facility in manipulating that information, which is what solutions are. Solutions is manipulation on the information. Document management tended to be the storage and the security and the organization, and then these other solutions provided the manipulation of the digital files. So I believe that the concept of having to remove a document out of the native content, manipulating it, storing someplace temporarily, and then having to put it back, I believe that over time is going to disappear, because it is so much more secure, so much more efficient, and so much easier for the user, if the solutions can automatically have all of the storage repository right there and all of the other technologies right there. Now, this is the important thing. These solutions do not have to be provided by the DM vendor. Do not. These solutions today are being produced by many partners, technology partners to the DM vendor that will adopt the native APIs and store the documents and the content management services. So if you're asking specifically about what net documents will do, okay, we will continue to introduce more and more solutions, like we have introduced with task management, with building document sets, with document automation, with document analytics. We are providing more and more contents, and that is the evolutions that we are, and not just us, and all the other vendors are doing the same thing, But so we will provide more and more solutions, but we will never provide all solutions. It's impossible. And the solution will be provided by multiple people who hopefully will also be conscientious that whoever stores the document if has a very set of rich APIs that can enhance what you're trying to do with the solution.
I think that goes somewhere to answering Sean's second question, actually. So he says the system of record, e.g. the underlying data, and the software productivity that sits on top are distinct and separate, which you've said. To say that we must hold back software productivity innovation to ensure that data lives in one place seems a little short-sighted. Perhaps the utopia is that our system of record data exists in one place, which I broadly agree with, but that the software productivity layer above moves forward by both the system of record vendor, e.g. DMS vendor, and various third parties through integration. This comes back to question one. What are the DMS vendors doing to address the productivity gaps that exist outside of their platform, such as integration strategy, platformization strategy? And most importantly, are DMS vendors asking their customers to wait for them to respond to these gaps?
Yeah, I think that it is not possible and it's foolish for any DMS vendor to think that everybody has to wait, to for the content provider to provide everything. Innovation will always be faster than any single vendor can produce. So what we are asking the industry, here is to, when you provide more and more integration, more and more solutions, think about platformization. Yes, there will be solutions that will be adopted that will not be platformized, and then the law firm needs can determine that. But the ones that are platformized, either from the vendor itself or from any other vendor that adopts that platform, those are the ones that you should look at very, very seriously. Eventually, there will be a huge pressure to make a decision. Do I continue with the existing vendor, or on a particular solutions, or adopt a solution that is already provided by the content provider that is platformized with everything else? So that's why I'm encouraging everybody to be compatible with the standard platforms that exist today in the legal market, to make everything easier and smoother for the end users.
Maybe just say in the chat if you could react to that. Let's say is that already very much part of your focus when you're looking at new technology. I'd be really interested to hear. There was I'm sorry, Joshua Sharp. I think this is, maybe just deal with this a little briefly because we're sort of starting to run out of time. This is very NetDocs focused, but Joshua, thanks for your question. How do end users quickly adapt to the evolution of the NetDocs platform / products? Any future ideas for NetDocs to provide more detailed UI tips, training within the NetDocs ecosystem? And users often struggle with new features or changes. It's quite specific to you, but do you want to react to that? Because I feel conscious that this question sat in the chat for a while.
Yeah, we try very, very, very much, to announce ahead, what are the new solutions there is coming up. So if the issue is assimilation and adoption, I totally believe that platformization is a solution, because the uniformity across all of the new solutions will be so much better, if it uses the same search engine, the same authentication, the same user interface, and that type of a thing. So the challenge with us in that documents is that the rapid pace of innovations is accelerating. As I said, it's fantastic for me to say, wow, look at that. There's even some things that I would say, wow, that even surprises me. This is great, to have that. So that is something that we're very, very much conscientious, and we're doing everything that we can, so that our support organizations, that our documentations, that the look ahead is always there. But thank goodness that platformization exists, because you do not have to deploy a new search engine, you do not have to develop new DLP systems, you do not have to think about ethical walls, that is any different. All of that is just all the same. So platformization is really the gold nugget, of fast innovation. Is the only way that we can keep up.
You talk about, so one thing you touched on that we haven't really developed, which I'd like to. So you talk about, and Joe Elster, who's head of content at Inside Legal and works with you guys, he made an interesting point, or asked an interesting question about the you mentioned the transition from DMS to document lifecycle management. And he says, could you explain the transition and what that will mean for law firms?
Whoever has the documents, is in a great position to offer services on the documents. And while the first 15 years of Net Documents has been very, very much focused on creating a cloud solution, that can organize documents, that can manage emails, that can secure the contents, and that can make it very, very stable. We have incredible transaction rates, 1.3 billion transactions a day, 11 to 12 billion files that we're managing. So that part is done, and thanks to our platform, it is stable. So with a stable platform and with the document contents, then we can think about, hey, why not create more and more applications? One of which is the document automation that is coming up, and then we can see all of the past examples, with set builder, with task management, with e-signatures, and all that we have built. So we are envisioning what is it that happens in the life of a lawyer and a life of a legal assistant, and how to make things better. What are the things that they're doing that we can enhance their life? And then thinking of that from platformization and from a cloud perspective, that every new innovation should share the same normalized core technologies. That's what our concept of lifecycle management is.
I've got one last question because we're nearly at time. Just maybe we've got about 4 minutes left, and I don't want to overrun into everybody's day, but as fun as this is, but just very briefly, someone who, I don't know if I've got permission to say, says, my best to the legend, the great ALVIN. You've got a fan in the chat. But so Dennis Kennedy says, perhaps just to wrap up, a few thoughts on moving to the post-document era, ALVIN, so text, video, audio, location, Internet of Things.
That's what platformization is all about, embracing new things so that when we make it available, then it is across all of the solutions. But Carolyn, this is exciting. It's just the first time that that I participate in something that anybody can ask any question. But it is a solution. So after 40 years, I'm really humbled by how much the legal industry has moved in technology, and I'm just thrilled by what's happening in the last 5 years. Cloud is just normal, right now. Platforms is the next evolution. I encourage everybody to be conscientious of this technology. Demand it from your vendors. Demand it from your solution partners. Make everything platformized as opposed to just aggregated. And then we can see the next level of huge efficiencies, in our industry. This is my passion.
I appreciate, it probably wasn't a good one to end up on, Alvin, that one. But no, but I appreciate it's great of you to just agree to just answer any question. So, and there's not an awful lot of people who would just spontaneously be bombarded with all sorts of questions and be very willing and game to engage with everybody. So I think we can all join in saying thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your sharing your insights. I found that hugely helpful. I think we've had some really great reactions. Thank you so much to everybody listening in. Thank you for your engagement. It always makes these sessions fun. And thank you for our first Ask ALVIN session or ask anybody. Actually, we've never done this before. Thank you to you. Thank you, ALVIN. It's been great speaking with you.
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you for everyone.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.